So in today's web dev tip, we're going to carry on setting up our server in order to get ready to accept our files from our build project that we're going to push up via our GitHub action. And the next thing we need to do is actually create some space for where the Node app, the API, and also the front-end app is actually going to live. So what we're going to do is actually log on to our server as our Rick and Roll user, and then create a couple of directories and make sure they've got the correct permissions to ensure that we can actually push our files across. So let's first of all log on to the server. So let's log on via SSH using the Rick and Roll user. And let's just clear that so we've got a clean terminal. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually create some space, create some directories for the Node app. And in our current working directory, we're in the home directory for this particular user. I'm going to create a new directory called apps. So if we have multiple different apps that we're going to be deploying, they will all live inside of here. So that's just a simple case of saying make directory apps. And now if we look in there, we've got that apps directory and we can push all of our app code into there. So if we just navigate into that apps folder, obviously there's nothing in there at the moment, but I'm going to make a separate directory here for the project that we're going to be working on. Now you can call the directory anything that you like as long as you reference that later on in the same way. But what I'm going to use is the actual domain name that we're going to be using for the project. So I have actually made a decision on the domain name and purchased that. So I'm ready at this point to actually start configuring the server and referencing the domain that I've been purchased. So the domain that we're going to be using is rickandroll.me, and this will be where the API lives. So we're only going to have the one backend app, really, just that one Express app that we've been working on. So that will live inside of here. So if we just take a look at the permissions for these folders. So this output in the ls command will give us the information about what can be done to this particular directory. And you can see at the moment it's open. We've got read, write and execute for all levels of user, which is fine for the most part, again, because we're just having a bit of a hobby project, but for security reasons and for limiting access to this particular user, we should probably remove the write abilities from this folder. So I'm going to do that with the chmod command. So recursively, I'm just going to change those permissions to 755, which if you're familiar with the way that permissions work on a Ubuntu system, 7 will be the same as this, so read, write and execute, and 5 will just be read and execute. So I think we're already in the apps folder, but just the full URL will be in our home directory, that apps folder, and then the domain itself, so rickandroll.me. Oops, it looks like I got the R flag in the wrong place there. It should come after the chmod command here. So the R is just for recursive, which it doesn't really apply in this case, but it would normally go into all of the different folders that are inside of there and make sure those permissions are the same. It's just out of habit that I normally just put that on there automatically. So apps rickandroll.me again. And so now we have to put in our password for our user just to confirm that. And if we just have a look at the permissions again for the folders here, you can see we've removed that write ability from that rickandroll.me folder. So just being a little bit security conscious and also preventing other users on the server, so if you've got other apps running, from making any changes to this folder. But that's it for this tutorial. Make sure you stay tuned for more web dev tips.